Good. Sorry, I thought you wanted me to say, hey, I'm here today, and I'll do the intro. So, Mark, tell me about your life.
Ollie, welcome to the Take Flight podcast.
Thanks, Mark. It's a pleasure to be on here, and welcome to the Breakpoint Academy.
Thank you. This space is amazing.
Yeah. This is my. I get so excited. I can't sort of refer to this as coming to work. Work for me, in inverted commas, means something that's a lot darker and a lot more sinister. But this isn't work. This is passion. So
it's funny. The other day, because I've just had a daughter. She's 4 months old.
Congratulations.
Thank you, mate. Yeah. So chatting with my wife and obviously working from home and balancing stuff. And I'm trying to say to her, I need to go and do work. But it's not the right word for it. So I don't know how to refer to it.
No, exactly. And that's what, we'll cover that in this talk today. But can I ask you a question about your daughter?
Yeah.
Did anyone buy her a mask?
No.
Good.
And I wouldn't put one on anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just thought that when you said the point, and I just thought in these times it's a crazy time to be.
Yeah, really strange.
Interesting time. I wouldn't say crazy. I'd say interesting, but yeah.
Character developing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, honestly, the place is incredible. I didn't know what to expect turning up here. So you've got this incredible gym upstairs. You've got about 1 million businesses operating all around.
Exactly. It's a little bit of a TARDIS, isn't it? Because you come in, from the outside, it looks quite small. And then you come in, that was the same when we first looked at this place. And I thought, how am I going to fill it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now I'm thinking, is there any other places available?
Well, look, mate, I've been so excited to do this. I've spoken to a lot of people as well, but there's some specific things that I want to ask you about, and I think I'll just jump straight in because I often like to get into a little bit of the story first with some people, because there's so many things I want to ask you. I just want to jump straight into something that really jumped out to me about something that you've spoken about a lot, which is conforming. This podcast is called Take Flight, and it was born out of my lack of fulfillment with the life that I'd found myself living. And a big part of the message is encouraging people to pursue what they really care about, what they find as their passion or believe is their passion. So I'd love to hear your sort of philosophy and mindset on conforming and how that's panned out, or lack of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What a great topic to start as well, because I always, I do say that if you want to perform, don't conform. And that is really in respect of we're born into this world as amazing creative human beings, ready to explore, experience, and basically to have a wonderful life. But very quickly we're pushed into a system that really doesn't fit everyone. It's like my fiance's little boy William. He's 11 years old and being pushed to do these exams and that, and and he's saying at the moment, I think the language is really, you imagine it, you can see how this affects kids. For instance, it's like, if I don't pass this exam, then I'm in with the dummies. And I'm like, William, it's not the dummies, mate. It's not the dummies. It's just that some people are less academic than others. You're being pushed into a system that just generally doesn't fit everyone. And I was the same as that. You know what I mean? I got to a certain point where I just lost. I think the thing for me is purpose. And when I haven't got a purpose for something, I haven't got any passion or enthusiasm for it. And that was really, again, going back to the fact that we're born into this world as amazing creative human beings, and then we're pushed into a system, we're spat out at the other end of that. And then we're given options, all these little sort of placeholders of what we can accept, and then we're meant to go and pick one. And we've got to understand that we're not designed or built to actually be put in a pigeonhole and say, this is you and this is your life. And then when people feel uneasy about that, and that was the same for me about the military. That was my every dream. I created an image of this. I was in love with the image of being a Special Forces soldier. The image was everything. And this is what I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people get wrong. They fall in love with the image, and then that doesn't match the feeling when they get there. So the reality and the perception are so very different. And that was for me for the Special Forces. And then I got there and went, oh, why am I not feeling amazing? Why am I not feeling fulfilled? Why am I not? And then I start to reflect on me, thinking, oh, it's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. And then that starts all kinds of self-doubt, lack of self-worth, all that kind of thing. And for me, what it was simply the fact I hadn't found my purpose. And I didn't realise that. I wasn't joining it. I need to find my purpose. I didn't even understand that language. But it was clear to me now, looking back, although hindsight didn't win any wars, it's a great thing for reflection. And, looking back, I just simply didn't find my purpose. And that's what I'm saying. It took me a long time. It took me 43 years to actually start understanding that life isn't about doing what you expected, it's about doing what you want. And then once you do what you want, and it creates passion and enthusiasm from you, and you start doing something that really doesn't feel, like we just said before, like work, and your motivation isn't just getting up because you're going to work just to pay the bills or the mortgage or this, that and the other. You're going to work because, my enthusiasm is the fact that my business helps people. And your business is the same. You're doing podcasts so that people can be inspired, motivated. It can create a slight spark that will change someone's life. And that's an amazing thing to do, because I think once people understand it, and I actually spoke about this yesterday. Be careful, because I go off on tangents. I spoke about this yesterday that I forgot what I was going to say then. I get lost as well.
The tangent.
Yeah, no. It's what was I saying? It was like
purpose.
Yeah, purpose. Oh, yeah. There was a little story I was going to go into. That it'll probably come back anyway. But really, it's the fact that you've got to find your purpose in life, and just because it's not out there and something that's been pre-designed and labelled and shoved on a shelf that you're supposed to adapt to, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Yeah. It just means you've got to keep on looking. And for me, and a lot of people do this, they sit in that job and they're uncomfortable. It's like putting on a pair of shoes that don't fit. You're quite happy to hobble around in them for the rest of your life. If the shoes don't fit, take them off. You know what I mean? Start doing something that's comfortable. So really, it's about, for me, it's always been about, and I'm a big believer. If I see the crowd going forward, I'm going to look for the left and the right, because I just think, for me, mainstream is not right for me. It's not right for me. I just think that, there's so many people worry about artificial intelligence coming in. Everyone's going, artificial intelligence is, going to dominate the world. It's already here. Because the majority of people's intelligence is artificial anyway, because it's from some kind of program or from your phone or whatever. Everyone's doing a pre-described path. And they should start to really learn that you have to, life is about creating your own footprints, not following a path. You know what I mean? And as soon as people start to understand that, and then a lot of people, it is hard for people because they get trapped into this. Then before you know it, the mortgages grab them. Then they've got finance on here and this, that, and the other. And then before you know it, they're trapped. Yeah. And that is the system. That's the system that's been created, and one that, I've been foul of, and one that I'm not part of anymore.
Your book was incredible, I have to say. So I know you've got a few books out. Is the Breakpoint book? You
know what I like saying now is, which one? Which one? I love your book. I'm like, which one? No, it's not like that. But yeah, I do like to say which one, because it's they're two different. Because really, Breakpoint was setting the foundation, the credibility of who I am and my life. So you mean Breakpoint?
I mean Breakpoint. Yeah, I haven't read the other one yet. I'd love to, and I'm really excited because you've now.
Well, you'll be leaving here with one. So.
Okay, amazing, very good. I'm pleased. So, because what I found fascinating was, because I've read a few of these kinds of books, and when I say these kinds of books, I mean Ant Middleton and Foxy. Yeah. But what I loved about yours is that it kind of like it flicked back and forth, and just the way that it was written was awesome, and every single chapter had a message to take away. And interestingly, on what you're talking about there, the trodden path, there was a quote of yours that I wrote down because I loved it so much, which was, most take the trodden path rather than the path less travelled, as you have to hack your way through. Yeah. And I just think, like, for a lot of people, and I feel myself included here, is that feeling of hacking through, because no one's done that before, and they say like the first over the wall gets the bloodiest. Yeah. Like, because it's so much harder, but it's so much more.
You have stolen one off you now.
Because you're doing something people largely haven't done before. Yeah. So it's so much harder, but it's so much more challenging, which means it pushes you into that kind of often flow state, and it's the skill and balance with the challenge, and it kind of gets you into that place where you're really driven and you grow and you develop and everything else. And I just loved that you wrote that, mate. I wrote it down. So
fantastic. But that, I think that really takes me on to the fact that, I've spent a lot of the things the reason I talk about it in my book is because I've experienced it. I'm not this perfect, the book isn't about perfection. It's about learning from mistakes and how it's helped to shape me who I am today. And really, it's people have got to understand how we're wired, and we are wired to avoid stress. We're wired to avoid anything that could put us in harm. Regardless of what anyone thinks, it's a subconscious drive. Everyone has a subconscious drive to evolve the species. That's the underlying one dominant force within everyone. And basically, as far as evolution is concerned, it would be quite happy if we sat in a corner and just procreated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the survival. That's why there's, in every species, like animals, everything that have lasted through ice ages, everything, it's because that species has got this drive to keep evolving.
Yeah.
We've got that. That's the DNA of every person. So when it comes to doing anything, it's a natural feeling to want to avoid any kind of stress of anything we've not done before. So, the way that works is, we want to, and that's why we are caught in repeat habit loops. And if those repeat habit loops are offering us no challenge whatsoever, that is a very unfulfilling place to live. But that's what happens to the majority of people. Yeah. That our minds want us to keep doing what we did yesterday, the day before, and the day before that, because as far as our minds are concerned, linked with evolution, it's kept us alive till today. It doesn't care if you're happy or sad, whether it's a bad situation or not. It just knows that it's kept you alive till today, and it wants to keep doing the same thing.
Do you think there's a conflict of that element, wanting to keep us alive, keep us comfortable, procreate, all those things, but also the other side of the coin, which is wanting to develop, grow, and see how far we can push our species ultimately?
And that is the ability to accept our own human dysfunction, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because that is it. That's it. We're torn between those exact two things. Yeah. And when we start to understand and appreciate, that for me is man's greatest discovery, appreciating our own human dysfunction. And that is it. That for me is it. We're put on this earth to really be this, get out there, experience, do some crazy things. But then the evolution side of things is pulling us back, saying, hold on, I've got to protect the species here.
Yeah.
Don't jump off there. What are you jumping out of that plane for? So it is a conflict. And that's the thing. That's what we're working against. That's the force we're working against. And that's why it is an effort. That's why whenever you want to do anything that's a change that's not been done before, of course your mind's going to go, if you don't take action very quickly on something that you want to do, everyone knows this, your mind very quickly will start to sabotage the reason why you should do it. It's like everyone comes over, like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if we went, on a holiday and, I don't know, or started skydiving or something. And then very quickly, if they don't take action on that thought, it's the honeymoon period. The honeymoon period dies, and it dies because your mind starts going, your mind starts sabotaging any kind of idea that could put you under stress, that could really harm you. That's just a survival blueprint within us. But once you start to understand that, you can work with it, as opposed to think that you're cursed and you've got mental health issues and and all that kind of stuff. I always say it's like an analogy: a mechanic can't fix a car, he can't fix a motorbike until he knows how it works. We're no different. Yeah,
it's fascinating though. So many of us don't understand the basics, which is just like, it's sad, I think, because we only get one chance. Yeah. And if you don't fully understand, like that, just understanding that, the conflict, and you saying that's our greatest challenge, is something that will help us be happier. I've heard someone call it being perfectly imperfect. Yeah. And just, even one of the challenges I've had, been doing some coaching recently, and my challenge is that I'm not anywhere near the physical fitness that I used to be. I used to play football.
You and me both.
It's trying to accept that you're a different version of yourself now. Yeah. And you can't have, again, the vision of that thing, whether it's a special forces person or the perfect version of you, which you have this idea that you're chasing towards achieving. Yeah. And just like being okay that perhaps that isn't gonna, it's expectation, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, but the thing is, that's really interesting, because it just took me onto something there that works in two ways, right? That is another sort of human dysfunction as well, is the fact that, and this is the same for trauma, and that's the problem. You see, if your benchmark is behind you, You know, I see this a lot with people. You know, they're always talking about what they did once, and once they've achieved a great benchmark in life, they're like that. And that's it. They're resting on the laurels, and then their mind's always trying to be the person that they were, and that creates so much frustration. Because you're never going to be that person again. You as you get older, as your environment changes, you're a different person. And especially when it comes to trauma, a lot of the frustration, the reason why people can't move forward from trauma is because they're trying to be the person they were before the trauma. And you're not that person anymore. So it's about, you know, understanding that your focus should be fully forward. You know, it's reflect on what happened in behind you. But you should never be trying to re-loop who you were. It falls back into what we talked about before, you know, that repeat habit loop. You know, and it's like, and also on that, you know, it's like, I think the day we stop, you know, it's for me, my greatest achievement, I haven't found it yet. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, I don't look back on my life and say, well, that was the best thing ever. I've not found it yet. I'm still looking for it. And I don't know where it is. But I don't think I will ever find it, and that will keep me moving forward. You know, so I just think, you know, the more we try and be who we were, the more frustrated we're going to be.
Do you still enjoy the successes that you do have?
Oh yeah, 100%. But I also understand that it's not about the goal; it's about the journey. So, you know, and that's why, you know, a lot of the time it's like launching this. You know, me and my partner Laura, we're just like, oh, a bit flat, really. You know, it's like, but that's just normal. That's normal. We've achieved. We've actually. This has been a long process. It's been like 2 years to get this up and running. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it started as a thought. Then it was, you know, then it was like ordering all the. You know, it's just been an absolute. There's a lot of moving parts.
So just for context, it's the Battle Ready 360 box.
Yeah, it's a Battle Ready 360. It's basically a pop-up gym in a box.
It's amazing.
It's just perfect for people think that we probably designed it for COVID, but we, you know, this was a long time before COVID. A long time. It's just fallen perfectly. It's the story of my life recently, but yeah, it's normal to. You know, and that's the way you should be. You know, if you felt absolutely 100% fulfilled when you'd achieve your goals and went, yeah, it's brilliant, yeah, you know, and sat back, you're never going to achieve again. But the thing is, you've got to understand that it's not about the goal. You know, that's really just a benchmark. That's a line in the sand to pull you forward. Yeah. But really, the growth is the journey. You know, so it's about appreciating that journey, and that's where you grow. When you get here, you reset your goals and move forward again.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's really well put. I mean, something I'm interested to hear a bit more about is how you actually found fulfillment in the end then, because you spoke about having this image of being a Special Forces soldier, which you achieved, and it wasn't quite living up to what you thought it was. And I've had many times during my life where I've achieved things and, like you said, felt flat. My dad always used to tell me, find new mountains. That was the only way I could, you know, get somewhere, and then just quickly find another goal to chase. But, you know, that doesn't really leave you fulfilled in the end, because you're just constantly looking towards something, looking for happiness in places. So just be interested to know, like, first how you lived with yourself feeling a bit flat or disappointed, I guess, and then how you eventually found fulfillment in what you were doing and happiness.
Yeah, well, it took me a long time. You know, I kept jumping from one thing to the next. I mean, at 14 years old, I decided that I wanted to join the military. It'd be the Royal Marines, you know, and I felt, you know, again, I fell in love with the image of this, you know, I had the magazine and everything, and it just looked amazing. And then you start creating images in your head of how cool you'll look, you know, to other people. And that's another point we'll have to discuss, because a lot of what we do as a default is we're more invested in making sure it looks good to other people as opposed to us, you know, as opposed to what it means to us. So I was very much invested in how it looked from the outside in as opposed to from the inside out. So really I got to the Royal Marines and it was like, this isn't suiting me, you know, it's just not what I thought it would be. I wanted something else. And that's what pushed me forward to go for Special Forces selection, because obviously I need to be at war every day. I need to be fighting every day, and I'll get that in the Special Forces. Got to the Special Forces, and then very quickly I was deflated yet again. You know, and then I started thinking, God, what is wrong with me? You know, this is everyone's dream. And then, you know, then I left in 2000, and then that started on that was really the start of the problems. You know, when I look at my life, you know, I was falling into a flat spin of despair, to be quite honest. I had no sense of purpose, no drive, and I was bouncing from one thing to the next, looking for these external factors that were going to make me happy. And basically, I started drinking a lot. I was taking drugs or anything. I was on this path of self-destruction, and one thing I could not sit with was my own thoughts. I could not sit there, and at any point, any downtime, I had to alter my mind state because I could not sit with the reality of who I was, and it was a horrible place to be. And that really was over a 10-year period. It took me a long, long time. I was bouncing over to war zones. Oh, this is what this was the thing that was, as people did, ex-special forces soldiers go and they're mercenaries and do this, that and the other. So I was doing what was prescribed as opposed to what I wanted. And again, it wasn't a case of, I don't know what my purpose is. I didn't know what that language was. And it was only when I'd been across to Iraq as a contractor. I spent 5-6 years over there, which was extremely traumatic. It was pretty hideous, actually. And, I'd a lot more drinking, a lot more, I started, at one point I was drinking, I was taking Valium, I was taking steroids, and the effect on my mental state was absolutely hideous. It's like living under that complete anxiety for 5 years, sleeping every night with a pistol under my pillow and weapons all around the room waiting for the door to go in was hideous. It was just, as you can imagine, it was you realise why you get paid a lot for doing that kind of stuff, but no money's worth that as far as I'm concerned. And then I came out of there, I had to get away. My mental state was deteriorating really badly. And I thought, right, I need to break away from this. So I was living in Australia at the time, and I thought, I'll get into some property, and I'll do, I had this vision again. Again, I created an image of the thing that would be great. And I had this vision of this, that, and the other, and how great that would be. And it worked for a short period. And then very quickly I started getting bored. And then something, I bumped into someone that was an ex-commando, an ex-Australian commando, and what the work he was doing was absolutely amazing, which really compelled me straight away. And it was rescuing kids from child prostitution and slavery, so human trafficking basically, in Southeast Asia. And when I heard the stats on this, I just couldn't get my head around it. It was like 1.6 million, these are the stats, it's probably a lot more. There is a lot more. 1.6 million kids a year in Southeast Asia alone being sold. But here was the thing that hit me the most. It's like sold by their families. And for me, I'm like, I used to complain about not getting a hug off my dad. These kids are being sold. You imagine a family selling their kids, knowing that they're going to be abused and all kinds of stuff. And that really hit me hard. And I was like, I wanted to have some positive effect on these kids' life. So I then went over to Southeast Asia and started conducting operations for this for what was called the Grey Man. And I stumbled across something there which you can't buy, you can't borrow, you know, and that was the gift of helping other people, less fortunate. There was no financial reward for me. I used all my money from Iraq. So I funded the whole operation, 4-man team to go in. So it wasn't a financial gain. I wasn't doing it for financial gain. But, you know, the drive to get there was the story about these kids and everything. But once I got there, the power of helping other people was phenomenal. You know, and seeing these, especially when they're vulnerable kids, you know, and seeing these kids, they were held in these camps all across the Burmese border, Thai-Burmese border, and rescuing these kids one day, and then seeing them, you know, then they go to an orphanage, and then they'd be funded all their education and everything through donations. But seeing those kids in a camp one day, and then a couple of weeks later in a school uniform, going to school in a little school uniform with a satchel, was just, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. But, you know, and very quickly, you know, we had such success with those operations, it caused an international incident. It was in papers all over the world. The Thai government got hold of it. The Americans got hold of the Thai government and were like, what's going on here? We give you millions to prevent this and you do nothing, and there's a 4-man team going in doing more than you've ever done. And they're like, there's no such thing going on here. There's no such problem. These guys are just a bogus charity collecting donations from the public for their own for putting it in their pockets. So then there was a manhunt for us. We had to escape out of Thailand. And before I knew it, I was back in Australia. I'd lost everything. The thing that I'd finally stumbled on, I'd found my purpose in life. It was amazing. I actually thought that I'd be doing that for the rest of my days, which I was so invested in. All of a sudden it came crashing down and it broke me, absolutely broke me. So I was in Australia with no money whatsoever. I'd hit the drink heavily. And my world just started crumbling down massively. But the one thing I took from that gift was the power of helping other people. And I know people don't understand the power of that these days. Everyone's fighting for the most social media followers. Even in a close-knit team, in a sports team, in a corporate team, people are fighting amongst each other to be the alpha male or whatever it is. And then people are not understanding the power of collaboration. And I think that's a great loss to humanity, and you only have to look at today's issues around the globe. I mean, that human divide has never been more apparent than it is today. And we are so powerful. Humanity is so powerful when we unify, and at the moment, the things that are happening in the world, I won't go into that because I have my own view on it, but things are being constructed to basically divide us. And, but for me, that was the one thing I took from that. Although I was broken, that was the seed that was sowed. Wow, this is powerful. And that really was the undertone, the DNA for everything. This is why I'm here now. This is Breakpoint. And the mission statement for Breakpoint is to create a globally identified brand recognized for the positive growth and development of others. And that makes me extremely proud every time I get out of bed every morning.
Amazing. Wow, mate, it's so much to unpack there. It's insane. So, do you know what it made me think about a little bit is obviously in a past life, working in the corporate world, the reason why I felt so unfulfilled is because everyone had a hidden agenda. Yeah. So you're living in this world where you're, like you said, with your military example, you're essentially trading your time for money. Yeah. And that doesn't feel good to begin with anyway. And then to get up the ladder, then you're just competing with everybody else who smiles in your face and does other stuff behind your back for their own agenda. And obviously that's a really negative viewpoint on it. There are places that I'm sure aren't quite as bad as that, but the ones that I experienced, they generally are. But yeah, so I had a similar experience when I kind of hit a bit of a rock bottom. But I was interested, like you mentioned first sort of having a real crisis moment and despair when you first went to Australia, and then again after that. Do you think that we need to go to those like depths in order to then find that purpose or reach high levels or grow to the level that you've grown to achieve the sort of things you've done?
I think for me, the answer is yes. But that's not to say that, the last thing you want people to do is going, right, I'm going to design my own, I need to actually, so they then go out on a massive drinking thing, drugs, everything. And then, but, I think that does create, once you've actually hit rock bottom and you do so much soul searching around that, you really get to understand who you are. And I think, it's experience, isn't it? At the end of the day, a lot of people gain so much from that experience. It's like, when you almost lose your life, it's a similar kind of thing. It gives you such empowerment for life, and if you don't really experience any kind of hardship, it's hard to, it's all about yin and yang, isn't it? It's like, and once you've experienced the negative and then you don't want to ever go back to that negative. And that, for me, it's like my biggest fear. My biggest fear is being the person I used to be. I'll never be that person again, but that is my biggest fear. But the thing is, I want to really make sure I enforce the message that, we don't need to crash. We don't need to deal just in cure. We can deal in prevention. And I feel people can really start to. The thing is, it's the whole thing with mindfulness, with self-development. A lot of people don't understand the purpose of it until they need to do it. Because it's a hidden kind of. It's a hidden benefit, if you want to call it that. When you do anything mindfulness-wise, first of all, it sounds too easy for it to work. Well, I can just think this and it'll work. Yeah. Fact. And secondly, there's nothing material. Our whole world, everything we've designed to do is material, isn't it? Everything, I want that, I want that, it's material. I know that, cars, everything. Yeah. When it comes to self-development, there's nothing actually tangible. I can't pick up I get this golden award which says I'm now fulfilled, and it's something that's really hidden. It's like, for me, it's like mindfulness and etc. and things like that. It's really clearly obvious to me when I'm not doing my practices. You know what I mean? And that's when I know I've got to get back into it. Because I do get into a routine like this morning, meditation, exercise, everything. And there's periods when I don't do that. There's periods when I not slack off so much, but I allow excuses to come in and stop. And then all of a sudden, straight away, I'm like, once that's missing from my life, that's when I know how valuable it is, because the way I'm feeling when I don't do it, as opposed to the feeling when I do it. And
it's such a delay, isn't it? Like you can meditate for 4 weeks and suddenly feel better, and you're like, wow. Yeah. And you can't always put it down to the meditation, because you might be doing several practices that might impact it.
No, absolutely. And that really sort of hit me when I first went into meditation. I mean, when I came back from Iraq at one point, I went to see a spiritual psychologist. I didn't want to go and see a doctor, because I knew that he'd be like that with some, a prescription. And I had friends that unfortunately, have died from while they're on this medication. And there's no way I wanted to be medicated for my issues. So I went to see a spiritual psychologist, and it was like, we had group meditations and stuff. And I was, I'm there with one eye open, looking around, thinking, I look like a right dick. Yeah. And you think you've got this 1,000-person audience laughing at you, and you think about your best mates that you go to the pub with, if they could see me, and you start all this like negativity, you're a dick, and all, that's all this stuff going on in your head. But once I push that lot away, because there isn't a 1,000-person audience there, it's just you and your mind. And once meditation and mindfulness was a game changer for me, changed everything. And that was my first sort of invitation to it. And I was prepared to, because I was at rock bottom, I was prepared to accept anything. I was prepared to try anything. And really that was the start of it. But when I came back in 2014, 15, and I locked myself in isolation, which was really the content of my book, Battle Ready, my second book. When I locked myself into isolation for 2 months, put myself into a boot camp, no distractions, no TV, which is the same nowadays anyway, no TV, no newspapers, no radio. I controlled what went on in here. I controlled the input. And it was about going through those practices every day. It was about having a solid routine. And that's what's detailed in that book. It was about building positive emotions. I actually wrote a contract to myself of what I will achieve in 6 months, put it down on paper. I used to read it to myself in the mirror every day, every morning and every night. And when I started doing that, it's like, God, you're a dick. You're such a dick. And, even in the mirror, I was seeing my mates laughing at me, and I'm writing saying, I will achieve by such a, it was a proper contract, And then I sat there and went, stop doing that. And I pushed it away, and I'm like, little voice in my head saying, if you can't tell yourself what you want to achieve, how can you expect to ever achieve it? And it's true though, isn't it? If you can't tell yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself what you're going to achieve without feeling stupid, how can you ever expect? Feeling stupid is self-doubt. How can you expect to ever achieve it? And that's the one thing that pushed me through that short-term discomfort and and that for me, over that 2 months, I didn't recognize myself from going into that mental boot camp 1 month to 2 months later. The transformation was amazing, and it was the first time I actually reduced alcohol, and I was still drinking it at that time, I don't anymore. Reduced alcohol, really invested in my mindfulness practices, so mind, body and fuel, fuel being the nutrition. And once I started doing that, the return on investment was massive. It was like flicking a switch. Everything was changing. And I then started to realize that once we manage our internal world, that affects our external world. Once if people watching this or listening to this think, it's a load of mumbo jumbo, it's a load of rubbish, that's fine. You keep thinking like that. Because I know once you do it and you understand it and it works, it's contagious and it doesn't stop. And I just think, when it comes to visualization, mindfulness, all that kind of stuff, if you're not doing it, you're missing out.
It's absolutely amazing. I love hearing all of that stuff, because there's a lot of those practices I undertake myself. it's fascinating hearing about the story from when you crashed and you said you couldn't sit with your own thoughts versus the practice that you implemented to get yourself to a position of controlling your thoughts, as you said. So I'd love to know a little bit about, firstly, the spiritual psychologist. Like, what were the kind of big key takeaways that they gave you? And then what's your routine like? You know, you touched a little bit on it then. Like, what are the main practices you'd recommend for people to put into their life?
Yeah, I mean, the spiritual psychologist really opened me up to the power of the mind, you know, and that was, you know, we kind of think, you know, everyone thinks there's this separation between mind and body, and there's not. The two are one. You know, if you laid someone's nervous system out on this table, you could actually tell them, you could say that's the toe. You could actually, you know, and they're all connected to the mind and body are connected. They're one. So really, we're always looking for this external fix that's outside of our minds. And the one thing that they taught, that everything starts here within your mind. It's the way you think about things, but also you can't just do things by thought alone. You have to take action on that. So you have to have a physical element to the mindset. You know, so it all works together. You know, it's not all in the mind. You know, they work together. It starts here, but a thought, you know, ends up becoming an emotion, and then it becomes an action. So really, that was for me the power of understanding the power of the mind, and how we have to make sure that we're grounded, make sure that we're stable. We build a foundation from the mental practices. So that was really what I took away from that, and the power of meditation. The power of managing to clear 70,000 to 100,000 thoughts a day. Some people are a lot less. But, you know, some people a lot more as well. But that's what's going around our heads every day. And for me, you know, because you have so many life experiences and stuff, I had this, you know, and as you get older and older and older, if you can't control what's going on in there, chat, you know, I had 1 million people in here chatting. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And that's why I used to drink, because they used to go to sleep. When I used to drink, it used to knock them out, and then I could just be like in a numb state, just going, you know, and that's why I used to drink, because I could not handle the amount of stuff that was going on in here, the constant mind chatter. And really, until I started meditating, that really stopped all those 70,000. It's not that the 70,000, 100,000 thoughts weren't there. It's the fact I chose to align with the ones that I wanted. You know, and that really is all about purpose. That's all about creating goals. But if you don't, if you allow yourself just to fall into the slipstream of life, you have no control over the flow. But once you pull out of that, and once you actually start to choose what you want to align with, and choose what thoughts you want to align with and what suits you, you really become in control, and you could then control the flow. You know, so he taught me the power of that. Yeah. And then that was like I didn't do much after that. You know, it was almost that. So that seed was sown, and then life moved on. But it was sown at that point. Yeah. And then what was the second point?
And then just sort of, you spoke about the meditation. So like, what does your meditation look like, and what other stuff do you do?
Yeah. Well, this is something that, you know, in 2014, 15, this is when I put a structure into place in this boot camp. And let me talk about exactly what I did this morning. So up at 5 o'clock. Up at 5 o'clock, and I don't have to set an alarm anymore. It's just a fact; it's so ingrained. And to get up at 5 o'clock, you've got to be going to bed around 10 o'clock, because that's another thing. People, you know, I used to do it. Oh, I only need 4 hours. Yeah, that's a load of bollocks. You know, if you only have 4 hours, you're not allowing the most powerful weapon in your arsenal is sleep. You know, and that's when the body recuperates, regenerates, and everything. So sleep is so powerful. So I need to get into. If I want to get up at 5, I have to be in bed by 10, sometimes 9:30. So up at 5, and at that moment, you know, everything, my mind is telling me, you know, don't get up. You know, my bed is beautiful, I love it. You know, I've got 9. My partner Laura is next to me. I'm like, everything is saying don't get up.
Is it every morning it still says don't get up?
It still says get up. Yeah, it's easier to lie there. You know, avoid any kind of stress. That's the way we're wired. But straight away, I know if I don't take action on my routine, then really, you know, my mind will start enforcing every reason why I shouldn't get up. Before you know it, I'm staying in bed. Then that really does not bid for a good day for me. So straight away, it's like, get out of bed. You know, straight away, duvet back. And straight away, I come up with a positive affirmation. And that for me is because I do find, me personally, I think a lot of people feel the same. I can feel extremely negative in the mornings. And if I don't control my thoughts straight away in the first 30 seconds, that can affect my whole day. So for me, I have a couple of affirmations. And, like this morning, the one I've been using this week is the fact I'm so happy and grateful that I have the discipline and the routine to get up and do things that will empower me. And I just repeat that, and that gives me a sense of purpose why I'm doing what I'm doing, and not stay in bed. Another one is because I am very, focused on my business at the moment. It's all about, I'm so happy and grateful that money flows to me in increased quantities from a number of sources on a continuous basis. As soon as I take myself away from the negativity that's going on, bang, I'm straight onto my process. And then downstairs, I'm very strict on, I take a cocktail of stuff in the morning, and I won't, it's cinnamon, cayenne pepper, ginger, all organic, turmeric. I have some MCT oil, some apple cider vinegar, and organic lemon peel powder. And I mix that all together. That's my first drink. So that's my first drink. Now, I know that's complicated for people, but one thing I will say, have something healthy. You've been in a fasted state for around about 8 hours. The last thing you want to do is throw coffee into your system straight after that. Coffee is essentially poison to the body, and people think that gives me energy. It doesn't give you energy. That's your body fighting the poison. So that's why you feel that surge of energy when you have coffee. It's fighting essentially the poison. So, and I think the worst time to have any kind of drink with caffeine in it is when you've been in this fasted state. So for me, the simple thing to do is lemon water. So warm water with Scrooge's lemon, organic lemon. Have that straight away. I have a glass of water first, and then I'm straight into meditation. And that's by about 5:30 I get into meditation. So for me, I sit down and it's 25 minutes of guided meditation. Okay. So, I have a very active mind, as a lot of people do. And I feel, for me, guided meditation's always really worked. So, you can go to YouTube, you can go anywhere and find whatever you want. You can find meditations for abundance. You can find meditations for goal setting, anything, relationships, whatever you want. And then I sit there, and that time for me is so powerful because, like I said, those 70,000 to 100,000 thoughts, this is where I channel everything that I want to really focus on. It's like, that's the moment I go into my short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. Meditation, mindfulness to me is my focused attention at my intentions. Okay, so that is the time, the power time to do that. Once I've done that, it's 30 minutes. By about 6 o'clock, I'm then ready I then have a coffee. Okay. Then have a coffee. So, and then when I've done that, then it's exercise. Exercise is so important, and you don't have to go out and thrash yourself. You just, even if it's going out for a walk, whatever it is. I find that, like going for a run, I do like a 4K. It's only a small run. This morning was a 4K, take the dog out, 4Ks. And I find that time running is better than any other time. Like the gym and everything doesn't do what running does for me. And I really have some amazing ideas and thoughts and everything, and for me, it's also the fact that I don't have all the distractions or anything going on. It really allows me to focus on me. So running is really important for me. And then when I come back, 7 o'clock, I'm checking on emails, looking at my day, what I've got ahead. My phone's not going off. There's no one on WhatsApp. There's no one on Instagram, hardly. And besides that, I'll say that before that, I haven't even turned my phone on up until that point. Because that's another thing. The last thing you want to do is turn your phone on. Yeah. If you turn your phone on in the morning, you break your connection. That's your mindset. So do not turn your phone. You get a nasty email. If you're driven by your likes on Instagram, you've only got 20 likes on a post you thought you'd get 100 for, and you're like, oh no, your life's over. And it's like, oh, I'm not going, and before you know it, that's affected your whole day. It's like ridiculous. So don't turn your phone on. Switch it off. Make sure it's on airplane mode anyway. And a good thing to do if you do struggle getting up, make sure the alarm is set on your phone and leave it downstairs. Yeah. Or leave it outside the bedroom, so you've got to get up and turn it. My fiancée Laura, she puts the phone on the other side of the room, so she has to get up. It's just like, don't put it next to your bed, and don't turn it on until you've done all the things that you're investing in you, which for me is the get up in the morning, the mindfulness, the exercise, and then come back and I do a few emails and stuff like that, and I create traction from stuff that needs traction through my, send an email, do this, that, and the other, and it's my power time. By 8 o'clock comes, I call it RFD. It's a bit ready for domination. I know it's a bit extreme,
No, I love it.
but I am. And then, if I've done that, if I have an absolutely crap day, it's been a success. It's been a success because I've invested in myself. If I don't do that, then I have a crap day. That is, at the end of that day, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. So start to finish, it was 2 hours.
Yeah, 5 to 7. Yeah. 2 hours investing in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I mean, we give so much of ourselves away during the day at work or whatever else it is that we're doing. So yeah, to give ourselves 2 hours.
You are your most important project. You know what I mean? People say I haven't got time because of work. Everything around your life, your work, your relationships, everything will benefit from you investing in you.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, mate. I mean, my absolute element listening to that. That was so good. There's so many things that I have, similar kind of cocktail that I have in the morning. The hydration thing from fasting, even back to what you were saying before, like I'm pretty much not going to drink now, I think. I mean, I've been working my way towards it just because it just doesn't serve me anymore. I've been so fascinated with everything you're saying. It's amazing. I'm interested to know if there's anything you're happy sharing with regards to your soul searching. You mentioned that earlier, soul searching. I've been on a bit of a journey myself doing that. What are some of the big things, and whether that relates back to some of the traumatic events? And before we hit record, we were talking about when you were a kid, and you spoke about the story in your book, relationship with your dad and things like that, because there's a lot that I related to as well.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I only resolved, at 10 years old, I was a very traumatic incident where I was pretty much nearly ripped apart by a chimpanzee at the circus. Absolutely crazy event. And, when I look back now, I always say, hindsight never won any wars, but it's great to reflect. But I realised how that, when we go through a massive traumatic event, we naturally, as a survival instinct, we lock away the intimate trauma. And we think that and that helps us get through the immediate moment of that traumatic event. And now looking back, I realise how, because that wasn't dealt with, that made my life a very crazy journey. As a kid, I was absolutely mental. I was chasing danger, chasing death, and that chasing death didn't finish until probably 2011. So for most of my life, I had this habit of chasing death, and it's just such a. And I never actually dealt with the chimp until last year.
Really?
Yeah, I never dealt with that. And
how did you deal with it?
Ayahuasca.
Really?
Yeah, ayahuasca in Costa Rica.
No
which
way.
Was phenomenal. It was just unbelievable, and I didn't realise how deep set that trauma was, and you think, well, I don't think about it that often, but you don't realise it's in the subconscious.
Yeah, you carry it with you.
You carry it with you everywhere, and that affects everything you do. So, when I went to Costa Rica, it was just phenomenal, and that's the whole story on its own. But
did you have visions and things?
I actually went back to being a 10-year-old boy being attacked at the circus, and I actually became the chimp. Yeah. It was an absolutely crazy experience. So at one point I went back into the vision of me, and I was there as a 10-year-old boy, and below me was the chimp, the baby chimp. And then all of a sudden I heard the roar. I could hear the roar, and that's what I heard when I was 10 of the mother. And all of a sudden, instead I thought, oh, I'm going to be attacked. I'm going to go through this experience again. I very quickly flipped, and before I know it, I became the chimp.
And you were looking at yourself?
I was looking at myself.
Wow.
I was looking at the 10-year-old boy over my child, and I saw me as a threat. And it was so crazy. The people it was in a big thing called a maloka, and people were all having their own, going through their own journeys. And but people could see. I was actually on my mat as a chimp. I was like, I did the roar that I heard as a 10-year-old kid. I was like, Rah! And that was the roar I heard as a 10-year-old kid. But I could see it, and I could feel the hairs and everything. And I was like as a chimp does, just before I'm about to attack. But what that did for me, it was an amazing experience. What that did for me is it took me, I've always talked about that experience, the victim, and this is what we do. The victim, I've always talked about me getting attacked by, I've never appreciated the chimp. You know what I mean? I walked into the chimp's arena. You know what I mean? It didn't stumble across me in my living room. You know, I walked into its arena. So it really took me out of being the victim, put me into the chimp's perspective, who I was threatening is young. And it really taught me compassion, massive amounts of compassion for the situation, for that chimp. And it took me out of being a victim. It made me not part of the situation, but it made me view the whole situation as a whole, as opposed to being a part of it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it completely does.
And it really just made me feel a lot more compassion. It was like almost I was at peace with it. You know, I became at peace with it. The next time, you know, the next night, I then thought, I hope I'm not going to go back into that again, because it was crazy and it's quite traumatic. And then I actually went into being the boy.
Right.
And I went through the attack and everything, and it was interesting because I can remember at one point I was being attacked, and the attack happened. The chimp was, you know, I was actually the boy then.
It's funny you calling it the boy. It's you, obviously, but you're detaching from it. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, and you know, I was there and I was fighting this chimp, retaliating, and then I went in my mind. I was in this vision, and I went, what would have happened if you'd have stopped fighting? Stop. And I stopped for a minute. I stopped fighting. And I know this sounds a bit out there, but I then lay there and I died. And then I can remember looking, it was phenomenal. I can remember I was laid down and I opened my eyes, and my girlfriend was looking at me, and I just stroked her on the side of the face, and I said to her, everything's going to be okay, come with me. And then I went into the spirit world, and it was absolutely phenomenal. But what that taught me, right, then I came back out of that, and then that taught me in that moment that I've been fighting for all of my life. And the message to me through that experience was stop fighting. My relationships, my work, everything, I'm fighting. And that for me was stop fighting. And surrender was the big thing. I mean, this is all documented in my book, but surrender. And for me as a Special Forces soldier, surrender's not a great word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was really hard for me to accept. But once you have to surrender to yourself. And that for me was all about stop fighting with everything. Stop fighting. Lay down your tools, and you know, there was some strong messages there. But really, for me, I was at peace with it, and I've managed to offload that. You know, that I talk about the intimate trauma. You know, I opened that. I went inside and actually felt that emotional trauma, because I'd always reflected on that moment as being attacked by, and I'm almost having a bit of a fight with the chimp. You know, it's like you know, and it wasn't that. And again, that was that self-protection system. But then when I actually went into that, I went into the emotional trauma of that event for the first time since I was 10, and it was horrendous. And then I really felt the reality of what happened on that day. And I was absolutely terrified. I was petrified. I was screaming for my life. You know, I was dying. I was being killed. But you know, that was such a phenomenal moment for me as well. You know, and that is why my book was called Breakpoint. That's why that's why this is called the Breakpoint Academy. That was my first breakpoint.
Well, you got it written on the wall here. Breakpoint is the moment you decide nothing stands between you and your goals. And I've had those moments. They're like realizations that you can fucking do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. But that was the thing in that moment when I was lay under that chimp being killed. You know, I knew that, you know, instinctively I wanted to just freeze and just, you know, and if I'd have done that, I'd have died. But in that moment, I decided I must retaliate. And knowing that in me retaliating, that would up the game for the chimp. You know, obviously the chimp would up its game. Yeah. And you know, that's a gamble. But for me, if I'd have not taken the fight to the chimp that day, I wouldn't be here. So that was my first break point, and that was my. You have to embrace short-term discomfort for long-term gain. And short-term discomfort was me taking the fight to the chimp. The long-term gain was me living, and that's the ethos and everything for what we talk about at Breakpoint. You know, it's not that you don't have to go to a circus to get attacked by a chimp, but the thing is that is the way that we're wired. We're wired to take the short-term comfort, which leads to long-term pain. That can be relationships, alcohol, everything. If you want any kind of growth, any kind of change in your life, you want to achieve great things, you must embrace the discomfort. You know,
it's interesting because I couldn't agree more. But that comes from discipline, which is funny because you were saying that's part of your affirmation at the minute.
Yeah,
you're talking through that story, and I'm absolutely blown away by first of all the practices, but that experience sounds incredible. I mean, I have been fighting much of my life as well. You know, as an athlete in the corporate world, be it wherever, you bump up against people and you meet them with aggression, and that's I think it links back to that competition with one another. Like we're not, like you're saying, when we're in unity, it all clicks. We all work. We can all be better. But you know, when we're constantly fighting against one another, that ayahuasca experience sounded incredible, and the message you took away was insane. I've actually I've tried twice psilocybin, which is obviously the mushrooms, which gives a similar kind of effect as a psychedelic. I struggled because I think there's two things. You mentioned surrender, which is incredibly key, and it's funny. Yeah, it's not accepted in the in the military, but surrender is the one I struggle with the most. I think acceptance is another bit, which I'm. So long story short, when I was very, very young, I was 6 months. My biological dad left. I'm very, very fortunate to have parents who love me, care for me, look after me, and everything. So I had an incredible childhood. And my dad, who brought me up, is my hero. But you know, I still carry the story with me of somebody who I didn't want to be my biological dad ever, is still out there, did this thing to me without me having any control over it, which just brought this kind of, you know, I just brought a shield with me everywhere into every interaction, because ultimately you don't even realise it, you bury it so deep, but it leads to like mistrust and all these other things, and all you can think about doing is competing and being better than somebody else to get that external validation you were talking about. So I've managed to get to the stage where I accept that about myself, and I'm actually grateful for it, because it's led me to have some of the skills and traits that I've got, which allow me to achieve things and stuff. But the surrender bit of it is the hardest bit. So I don't know how we can be better at surrendering to those things.
It is. It's really hard work, and it's, you know, it's just the world that we've been brought into. I look at humanity at the moment, and I think we set off on some really on a bad foot a long time ago. When you look at everything that's going on in the world today, look at the wars that have been fought, everything I've been involved with, you know, in the military, etc., there's one underlying theme, and it's greed. You know, greed is such a horrendous disease. You know, greed accounts for everything. You look at the political situation at the moment, especially in America. I mean, it's all about greed. Everything's about greed, and we're driven it. Everyone's driven the same. You know, everyone's fighting everyone's fighting with that undertone of greed. You know, and that creates massive competition between people. And you know, I think I think especially at the moment, humanity is the weakest it's ever been, especially in the history that we know. Humanity is on its knees.
Do you think, like I thought about this the other day, and it's fascinating I'm talking to you about it now, like, because in past generations, or even past lifetimes, depending on what your beliefs are, we always had something to give us purpose. It all felt like purpose, but it was wars, it was battles, it was trying to take over countries, it was all this stuff. And now, because we don't really have that, or small portions of the population do, who are still in the army or military or whatever, we struggle to know where to put that energy. I don't know whether that's part of it.
Yeah, that is. But the thing is, people think we're designed to be at war, and I think that's such a, you know, I think that goes back centuries and centuries, you know. But I think, you know, that has become part of our DNA, and I mean, there is that. But I think at the moment, forget the fact it's war. I think we have so much energy. We've got so much energy, and that is the frustration. You know, war gave energy a purpose. You could channel energy
into that
in respect of war. But I think it's come to forget war and everything. We have so much energy. And I think that's what creates a lot of the issues, because that's not being channeled. You know, at the end of the day, society wants to create this artificially intelligent society that doesn't have to think. You know what I mean? That creates so, you know, we're put on the earth to discover and everything else. Every person has got that. Every person. But the thing is, when it comes back to everything that we've said, like, you know, the way that we're wired due to evolution, we're quite happy to take the easy road, the one that's been pre-designed for us. I find that we are quite naturally by default lazy. You know, I really do think, you know, and there's so many people that are quite happy not having to think for themselves, quite happy to be told where to go and what to do. And that's why, you know, they've got so many issues at the moment that, you know, people just believe any narrative that's fed to them, you know, and it's just that people are not prepared to think for themselves anymore. And that's why I say, you know, forget artificial intelligence is already here, because the intelligence is artificial. It's a program. You know, people are following the program instead of creating their own story.
Fed by the media or someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Ollie, I could speak to you about a million different things. This is great. I have one more question for you before we do this. We do 3 questions at the end, quick fire round. Because there's, you know, I wrote 4 pages of A4 notes for this. I've condensed it down to 2 A5s, but a lot of what we speak about is performance, and so many of the practices you've talked about already, people can use to benefit their performance. And you talked about that in work, relationships, fitness, health, whatever. But you've clearly discovered some kind of formula, and maybe again these practices are what you're going to talk about now. But you've had huge success with SAS.Who Dares Wins, huge success of all your books. You're now releasing the Battle Ready 360. You've obviously got this whole setup here of all the corporate work you do, the courses that you run, and everything else like that, the camps. So I guess the question really is, for all of your experience, what do you feel like it was specifically that led to that success? Is there a formula, or is it timing? Is it a mixture of both? Is it the mindset? What do you think it comes down to?
I'll tell you what, life changed for me, and I meant to mention this before, but I'm glad we're talking about it now, is, you know, when I was in the military, we didn't get paid much money at all. And also coming, you know, when I went through life as a kid, you know, we came from quite a wealthy family. Then all of a sudden my dad lost his business, and before we knew it, we went from wealthy to not wealthy. My father then left. So I kind of was brought up with this sense of lack. You know, and that was, so I was always chasing money. And then I joined the military, and they didn't pay any flipping money. So absolutely, you know, pathetic wage. And you know, a lot of the reason for leaving was the fact that I just didn't understand how people could survive to live on those wages. You know, it's just ridiculous. But that then spat me out the other end, and everything I wanted to do, you know, I wanted to have a business. I wanted to create my own, you know, to cut my own path, but it was all focused around money. You know, the driving thing was money. The money was first, then the idea was afterwards. You know what I mean? It was, and that was a really bad relationship. It's a really bad relationship. Now that all changed for me as soon as I got my relationship right with money. And the fact of the matter was, I had to swap the money for the passion. So once I create, it's like my business and everything else is now it's on the passion of what it does. And that, you know, as I said before, the mission statement is all about helping other people. That is the driver, not the money now. And once I changed that relationship, everything started to change overnight. You know, because it was now not focused on, you know, a mindset in the subconscious of lack. It was about creating something that helped other people. So everything we do, like the corporate courses, the Battle Ready 360, Battle Box, you know, and the app and everything, what are they designed to do? To help other people. That is my driver. And the money is basically no longer controlling me. So first of all, it was that relationship that changed everything. And once we got that right, you know, the money becomes, the financial success becomes a byproduct of the passion for what you're doing. You know, so I think you need to get the balance right, the relationship right first. And secondly, it's, you know, secondly is the fact that once you've got a business, I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot of stuff at the moment, and they don't understand that it's just a case of reframing it. A lot of people are in jobs where their jobs are actually helping other people. And if they looked at it as in respect of that, it's like someone that works in an insurance company. They probably get up and go, oh, geez, I've got to go to work and I've got to pay the car, and that's why I go to work. If they reframe that and said, I am actually providing people insurance policies that ensure that if something goes wrong in their lives, we're here to help. You know, if they looked at their job, it's just a case of reframing it. But if they reframed it like that, as opposed to, I've got to do this because it's paying the bills, they would not only have more enthusiasm for what they're doing, it would just make them naturally happier. So it's about really, you know, creating that vision of why you're doing stuff. That creates the purpose. Because if it's just based around the financial side of things, it'll be short-lived, very short-lived. And then just, you know, I do things. Everything we do now is through passion. You know, I enjoy doing it. You know, like the Battle Box. This is created from understanding there's a gap in the market. You know, this for me, this is a Battle Box with you know, all kit in it. You know, all this kit, I can take that anywhere in the world. I can have a pop-up gym anywhere. That comes from like me and Foxy being overseas on operations, and we didn't have much room for kit. This represents an old ammunition liner. So we used to get an old ammunition liner. We used to chuck a few bands in there, skipping rope, whatever it was, so that we could be anywhere in the world. We could pull this kit out and we could have a quick workout. Yeah. You know, because there wasn't, you know, in the Middle East, there's not a gym in every corner and stuff like that. So it was created out of that, you know, from that experience. But really, you know, that's created from finding a gap in the market and understanding that people, you know, it's filling that gap.
Yeah.
So if you can find it, and also with the business as well, you know, around about, I feel there's so much work to be done on people, empowering people. People don't understand the power that they've got within. You know, and that's everything that we do. We help, and also the fact that, you know, everything we do is about, if you don't start pushing beyond your limitations, you're almost building walls within walls, and those walls come thicker and thicker on the inside, and before you know it, you can't even breathe. You know what I mean? So if you've got to constantly be pushing outside of your boundaries. Yeah. You know, you've got to be creating goals. I've got a quote in the other room there that's, nothing was ever great unless at some point you doubted your ability to achieve it. You know, and again, you've got to look at the way we're wired. We only want to do things that we know we can do, and we won't look stupid if we fail. You know what I mean? I want to do the London Marathon because everyone's done that, and I know there's a good chance if I train, I won't fail and I won't look stupid. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not taking away from anything from the London Marathon. Yeah. It is a great thing, but, you know, that compared to something where there wasn't much history of people succeeding, I'm more likely to naturally choose the London Marathon. Yeah. But, you know, I just find that we should create something a bit more unique. And once we do, the return on investment for you mentally is phenomenal. It changes your life. So everything we do is all about helping others and helping push through those limitations that are a construct that we all personally build.
Brilliant, mate. It's so good. Well, I think we need to do like another 3 episodes.
Absolutely, mate. We're not even scratched the surface.
I know. This is every time you say something, I have about 6 questions. Look, just for people, we're about an hour and 10 in here, so I'll just sort of start wrapping up towards the end. But I would love to do another one with you in a few months.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's get it done.
So what's coming up then? Because I know this is going out a week on Sunday. I know you've got a bunch of lives with people in the fitness world with various areas of expertise that you're going to be doing for the battle ready. Yeah. Is that going to be this week coming, or is it the week after?
Well, next week we've got. We've only just launched this week, so basically we've got the app, So basically, when you buy a battle box, you then, you know, you've got the app where you can follow workouts on there from me and Foxy, using the battle box at home or anywhere. But we've also got, and we're starting to build a network of Battle Ready 360 athletes all around the country. So basically, we will have a calendar of live workouts starting next week, starting on Monday. That basically, you know, at any time people can log in and they can follow a live workout. The great thing about this is, and you imagine with the lockdowns and everything at the moment, you know, there's a lot of gyms that have closed, and gyms have actually it's a great thing they've done. They've given their members bits of kit, but because everyone's got different kit, it's like you know, with this you can say, right, pull out the red resistance band. Yeah. Everyone's got the red resistance band. Yeah. You know, put the door jams up. Let's build the anchor points. You know, and everyone's got the box. They follow along to the same workout. It's absolutely perfect. So, you know, our tribe, we call it a tribe, and our tribe is starting to build and build and build, and they can follow. There's a workout every day. Amazing. 2 workouts. It's really, I hate to steal it, but it's exactly or similar, very similar to what Peloton have done. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing, but nice. You know, you can't ride that. Well, you can't ride theirs either. It's a static ride. But yeah, it's a similar kind of thing too. But really, you know, we've just created a product because we feel there's a need out there.
Yeah,
so.
Brilliant. And the app's going to be great to go with that as well.
Yeah, and there's also my book is getting released next week.
Just going to ask you.
Yeah,
that sounds incredible. So a fiction book.
Yeah, fiction. My first go at fiction, but certainly not my last. This is a series, so. It was a bit, initially I was like, no, I want to do self-development, all my books, I want to, but then I realized how powerful stories can be, you know what I mean? And you can once I knew I could underpin everything I do in a self-development book, but in a story, but a story that is loosely based on me.
Yeah.
So, and I think that for me anyway, I'm compelled to anything when I see based on the true story. I can't watch a lot of stuff. I mean, it's fun and stuff like Laura's son William watches X-Men and stuff like that, and I don't mind now, just to switch off, but generally I get very bored at that kind of stuff. But as soon as I see based on a true story or anything like, I want to watch it.
Yes,
so that's the thing with fiction. Although it's fiction, it's very much goes into the character based on me, Alex Abbott, who is working in a very hazardous place in the Middle East. And although he's working in his external world is crazy and dangerous, the biggest war he faces is here in himself. And it's the battles and the struggles he goes through mentally. And then he has this outside world to deal with as well, which really reflects when I was in Baghdad.
Oh, amazing. So it's a part of a trilogy as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Brilliant. Have you written the other two?
No, but I am the second one I am so excited about because, it follows the path of my life. And not only does it reflect him as an individual and the trauma he's going through, which a lot of people will take a lot from that, it's also really starts to point the finger or bring exposures to some very, very topical global issues. So, just to give you a snippet, human trafficking and so it goes to where I've been. It follows my footprints.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Great. So that book is out next week.
Next week, 12th.
The first one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You got so much going on. I don't know how you balance it all.
I don't drink. That's why I've got so much capacity, and that's the thing. For me, when I first stopped drinking, that was the biggest mental battle for me. That was like the biggest demon to overcome. But what a battle that was, and what an outcome now. Because once I actually dominated, got in control, I can do anything now. But I felt so weak when I was drinking because I felt that I was being controlled. I had lost control to alcohol. But it's the same with anything, with money, with alcohol, whatever your demon is. You know what I mean? If it's in control of you, for me, it just made me feel so weak that something had me, and I hated that. And once I established control, I beat it. That just created a platform of I can achieve anything. And that, I tell you what, when we talked about what it was that changed, that was it for me. It wasn't just about stopping drinking. It was about knowing that I can control everything.
Yeah. And are you completely sober now? You don't drink at all?
Yeah, I don't drink at all. No.
Amazing. Yeah, I need to do the same.
Yeah, well, you do. It's like, and when it initially started, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it was Friday, and I'm like going, what do I do? What do I do? And then you start thinking, then you realise how much of your life is consumed, or mine was, with drinking,
going
your
out,
timetable, and and then you think, how do I fill these gaps? But then very quickly you start to fill those gaps with more constructive things. Like I can remember the first time I was on a Friday evening, I was still working. I was like, gee, I'd never done that in my life unless it was in the military. And then all of a sudden I was starting to build all these positive things. And before you know it, I was like going, how did I get time to drink? And it just create, everyone goes, how do you manage all these projects? It's because I've got the bandwidth. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm not suffering from when I used to drink, it was like loss of credibility, loss of creativity, loss of productivity, self-doubt, and all these kind of things which just kept me in that repeat habit loop of not achieving anything.
Yeah, it's so good. I couldn't agree more, mate. I mean, it doesn't serve me anymore. The next day is a complete waste. Yeah. You're trying to perform at your best and everything. Yeah. Yeah. All right, mate, incredible. So these last three questions, quick fire questions, just to give people even more tangible things to take away, hopefully to implement into their lives pretty soon. So the first one is there anything you've come across or discovered recently you're particularly excited about? Interpret that however you wish.
I'm extremely, obvious answer is fiction books.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so excited about that because I think the power of storytelling is to deliver a very positive message is phenomenal.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Assuming it's on Amazon and everywhere else.
Amazon, Waterstones, the whole lot. It's on audio, everything, and hopefully on TV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Soon.
Well, I wouldn't say soon, but we're in talks.
Incredible. Yeah. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
People always argue better in book though, so everyone get the book first. And then
Exactly.
Okay, so one practice we've talked about a lot already, but one practice you believe all listeners should give a go that's going to drive their performance.
I would say visualization.
Okay.
And if I can slip something else in there, meditation, build the two are one as far as I'm concerned. Meditation. I was trying to come up with a clever visualization, but meditate, visualize. People think, I've got to sit there, but visualize as you meditate what you want to achieve. Simple, and that can be, don't do it while you're in your car, but it can be, sat in the train. When you've got 10 minutes, just sit there, just fall in love with the dream. Never stop dreaming.
Yeah. Amazing. Have you seen Joe Dispenza? Have you watched any of his stuff?
Yes, I love his stuff, mate. He's actually in my second book.
Really?
Yeah, no, there's extracts from Joe Dispenza is amazing.
Yeah.
He's like, because he broke his back, didn't he? And then he, they told me he would never walk again. And he visualized walking. He visualized his vertebrae mending. And he did.
Yeah.
And he's the actual science, he backs this. And that's why it was very important in my book, Battle Ready, to have science-backed evidence of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want people saying, this is science-backed. It's like, gratitude is scientifically proven to work. One thing I'll say on that, though, is if gratitude works, so does negativity, and that's what you've, Anyway.
Yeah, Joe Dispenza
is amazing.
Like his advice, scientifically backed again, about feeling like it's happened, not just visualizing the thing and imagining yourself there, like feeling the emotions attached to having that thing or whatever it is that you're trying to. So
no, exactly. And that's the thing. Why people don't visualize? That is because we're kept in this constant state of fear. And that is the way society has been created. They don't want people visualizing. They don't want people being creative. They want people to be just... it's an interesting thing that happens when you're in a state of fear. Okay, your pupils become dilated. It's almost like having a phone on portrait instead of landscape. So basically, once you become in a state of fear, in a state of threatened or whatever, your pupils dilate and you will only focus at the problem and the thing that's upsetting you. The rest of the world becomes a blur. And that's the state of fear that everyone's in. In that state, you cannot create, because you're in basic, that's how human survival. You can only deal in the problem, and that's the state of fear that everyone's in at the moment. We are only focused on all the problems, and when you're in that kind of mindset, you cannot create anything. So really, that's why I think all the practices I talk about is really is getting rid of that state of fear. And I couldn't achieve anything until I got rid of that state of fear. And then I had the bandwidth to be able to visualize where I wanted to be, and that is such a powerful tool.
This is amazing. I mean, people are going to get so much from this. Honestly, this is incredible.
Thank you.
The last one is, and again, you mentioned so many, but
this was supposed to be quick fire.
When
you said quick fire, for the first time, I've now realised I'm crap at quick fire.
No, good. It is quick fire, but it's meant to stem other stuff. We've even managed to squeeze Joe Dispenza in there in like 30 seconds. If you had to nail down one trait you feel that's allowed you to have all the insane success you've had, from the TV shows to the things you achieved in the military to all the stuff you've created entrepreneurially, what would that one trait be?
The ability to the ability to live the outcome as if it's already happened. And that goes back to everything that we've been saying, the visualization, the whole lot. But, that is about, it's not just going... A lot of people say, well, how come I can't create, I want to be a millionaire. My mum said that to me once. She said, well, I want to be a millionaire, but that's not happened. But let me ask you that. When you say, what do you want to be? I want to be a millionaire. What does that create? It sits flat there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now talk about what you would do if you had $1 million. You know what I mean? Oh, I'd do this. Oh, I could buy a speedboat. I could do... And that, that's the difference. That's the difference. You've actually got to fall in love with... You've got to paint a picture of where you want to be, okay? And then you've got to add the emotion to it. you've got to bring in all the senses, the touch, the smell, everything, the hearing, and that's what I've always done. It's like have you come across Breakpoint, where I had the experience in Iraq?
About 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah, well, there's this, it's a long story, and I won't go into it today. But it's I had an experience where I visualized an outcome, and to save a contract, I had to visualize getting attacked. I knew that the only way that would save the contract, the security contract, was to get attacked and prove our worth. And I never actually knew the power of it up until this point. So the day before, I thought, this contract can't end, I'm getting paid a fortune. And, I then went through and I visualized the whole attack. Okay. And when I was in the moment, I was in the vehicle and I was getting shot at, and I was, I could smell the cordite from the bullets. When I got through that and I got to the other end and I opened the compound doors in Baghdad opened, we rolled in. And someone came up and gave me there was a hero's welcome glass of champagne, and I could feel the bubbles going down. I could feel the skin of the other person's hand when they shook my hand. And I visualized all that, and that's just the person I am. I am very creative, and I find that stuff easy.
Yeah.
I get lost in it. And that everything I've just talked about happened that next day.
No.
Everything to the letter. To everything and that. When I sat at the back end of that, and I was spinning out. I was going, this is absolutely crazy. And it was almost like a message to me. It was almost like a message from the universe. We need to show this guy that this stuff really does work. Yeah. And it nearly got me killed that day. And now I'll make sure that I visualize not getting attacked. But, I make sure what goes in here is what I want to receive on the outside. Our lives are products of our imagination. So, and that's, I think a lot of people can take a lot from that at the moment, because unless we have something that we can hinge onto, unless our goal has to be bigger than our circumstances, otherwise we become a victim of our circumstances. If we've got nothing bigger pulling us out of our current situation, we get sucked into it. I always say this is, if me and you, right, we're walking around a frozen, the ice is just forming on this lake, and we're just walking, we've got nice warm coats on, drinking a nice cup of hot chocolate, and I say to you, jump in there. You're going to tell me to get, you're not going to do it, are you? No. Right. If I say to you, right, the same situation happens, but the person you love is in the middle of the lake, what are you going to do?
Jumping in.
Exactly. Yeah. Because your goal overwhelms the sea. You don't give a shit about getting cold at that point, do you? That's just an analogy for that. But if you haven't got anything bigger pulling you, which is your goal, you get bogged down in your circumstances. So really, you've got to have something bigger pulling you through your current situation. Yeah. Because, you're going along like this, if something hits you from the side, unexpected, unless you've got something bigger pulling you through here, you're going to get lost in your circumstances. That relates to like special forces missions, for instance. You get on the ground, you've got to rescue a hostage or whatever it is. You don't stop because one of your mates gets shot, do you? Hey, whoa! Hey, I'm hurt. Right, stop. You know what I mean? Your mission is to get on that helicopter and get out of there. That your goal, your mission is greater than any circumstance that can happen on the way to it. And that's why I keep pushing and pushing people that you've got to have goals. We were destined to have goals. It gives us purpose. It gives us passion and enthusiasm for life.
Incredible. Yeah, I heard someone say, if you haven't got a goal, where do you know where you're shooting? You're just wandering around aimlessly.
Well, you're in that slipstream.
Yeah.
You're in the slipstream of life and you can't control the flow. Someone else is controlling it. Yeah.
Ollie, it's been absolutely amazing, mate. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, no, not at all. There's been so much
Part
gold.
one.
Yeah, part one, absolutely. Part one of at least 3. We'll do a trilogy of this as well. But yeah, thank you so much, mate. Pleasure, I can't wait to share this. It's going to be out in about a week and a bit. So
great stuff. Well, let me know and I'll circulate.
Great. And good luck with everything. You've got some exciting things going on.
Yeah,
so
great stuff.
Right,
cheers buddy.